what COVID did and what we do for our employees and what you do with your coaching clients is a big part of this also feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Learning about ourselves and taking feedback not as something to take personally or take offense to. Feedback is a gift. And if you can master a way to give feedback from a place of love, it elevates everyone. And so that's absolutely something that we lean into as well with our employees is creating this culture of feedback. And I'm not just giving feedback to my employees. I'm asking for feedback all the time because we're all just figuring it out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Allsmith. Today's guest is a really amazing woman that's here all the way from PB/La Jolla. She's coming to us. She's the founder of a very special business that I'll talk about here in just a moment. But something that's very important where we have a little bit of synergy is that Allsmith's about seeking edges of human potential and designing lives of strength, presence, and purpose. I think we very much align there. And I think something about our connection today and this unique synergy that we have amongst cold plunging is God's brought us together a little bit, which is kind of cool.
Absolutely.
And in the past, I've done like a really sexy introduction. I had a whole plan, but today I was like, I'm gonna wing it. Like this energy feels right and it feels really cool. And I'm excited to share this conversation. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mia Heck.
Thank you so much, Bryce. I'm so grateful to be here. And one of my favorite sayings is nothing is a coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
We're meant to be in this moment right now. And I have such gratitude for being here because this is an edge for me.
Mm-hmm.
The first thought when I was invited onto this podcast was, of course, excitement and gratitude. And the second thought was imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Who am I to be here and talk about things?
Mm-hmm.
And one of the beautiful things about imposter syndrome is it's telling you that that's somewhere you want to be. It's a table that you want to sit at. And so I'm really grateful that you welcomed this edge for me.
I'm so excited to have you here. Also because I've probably done 300 episodes at this point. Like I used to, if I misspoke, had to restart it. It took me 20 takes to kind of figure it out. Now I like the messiness. Now I like the deep, meaningful connection. Because if you relate that to what you subtly described as starting Soul Plunge in your backyard, which is what I have now. I have it in my backyard. So we have to have you over to connect with our community.
Hell yeah.
And it is messy. It's like you have electrical, you have the maintenance of the cold plunge, you have neighbors, you have music, you have parking. There's so many things that kind of get a little bit lost in the nuance. People think like, oh, I'm going to the place to do the thing, but they don't really think about the container that needs to be created. And that's something we've thought about a lot in relation to this podcast. And so just creating a container of safety and letting you know that like actually imposter syndrome is on both sides. We've had maybe 20 guests on from Rogan and they say the same thing. So it's like we're not alone in that feeling by any means.
Absolutely. I feel that 100%. And one of the things that I do in my yoga classes is after we do this really complex flow and we're sweating and moving and maybe even getting confused in the movements, I invite my students to just sit down without wiping off their sweat, without taking a sip of water and just sitting in that mess. And there's something so beautiful in that moment of sitting in uncomfortability that we can see what's there and we can explore that edge and dive a little bit deeper into, okay, what am I feeling? Am I feeling frustration? Am I feeling sadness? Am I feeling pride? And then diving a layer deeper, and rather than thinking, what does this feeling want from me? Thinking, what does this feeling want for me? What is this telling me?
It's so funny. Like every podcast, there's a moment like that where it like tickles me in a way that I'm like, oh, we're doing the thing that I feel like I'm supposed to do. This just happened faster than normal. And what lit me up just now with what you said is that like somebody said to me the other day, so much of life is just cleaning up your mess. Sure, maybe. but also so much of life is being okay with the mess. Right? You and I are probably at that age where a lot of our friends have kids. And it's like, you can clean up the mess. You can clean up the mess. I have 2 knucklehead dogs at home. I'm picking up fuzz from their toys and just little scraps of whatever. There's hair everywhere all the time. I don't know. Like, it's subtly annoying sometimes, but then other times it's like, I get to do this. And if you take that metaphor to life, I love that there's a moment where you're just like, don't do anything to clean it up. Just kind of be here and then actually play the role of the observer. Like, witness yourself just in this spot so that you're not like a human doing. You're actually a human being, and learning to be okay with the sweat dripping down your nose. Maybe your makeup runs a little bit. Your hair's a little bit messy. Your shorts or your leggings rode up a little bit. And just kind of like being in that moment and realizing that as humans, we are imperfect, but we are also malleable. And if we can allow this moment where the external is playing a role to not live rent-free in the internal, now we can not necessarily callous ourselves, but we can be subtly unbothered by the things of the external world that are really outside of our control.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think the messiness and the mud is a beautiful place to be.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of
It's where the lotus flower comes from.
Exactly.
I have that tattooed on me.
Hell yeah. It is such a beautiful symbol of creating something from that foundation of mud into something beautiful. And I think a lot of us and a lot of the guests I've listened to on your podcast have found their greatest purpose through their greatest pains.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting you say that. Yeah. I'm actually really happy that you picked up on that, because that's where the podcast started. Like, for me, it came from 2 parents dying from terminal cancer and me going through like this tumultuous shift of identity from pro athlete to what's next? How do we take those transferable skills into entrepreneurship or art or some sort of playful perspective architecture and turn it into a business? That combined with injuries, horrible breakups, was like, whoa, I'm completely lost in this world. But based on, to echo J.K. Rowling, rock bottom built this entire brand. And I think a lot of people can relate to that. And a lot of people can realize there's beauty in the muck. But then if you're able to simply endure, knowing that this too shall pass or it's not going to last forever, you start getting these little micro wins as you're subtly approaching that light at the end of the tunnel. And something about that builds momentum. And then in those little wins, you start to realize like, whoa, when I pause and I self-reflect and I look over my shoulder, I'm not where I want to be yet, but I'm not where I was. I'm actually kind of proud of who I'm becoming. I'm going to keep going. If this is working for me, how do I pay it forward to other people? Because I can't be the only one going through this. And I think you relate to that. Anybody that's willing to jump into a peaceful yoga practice and sit with themselves without the earbuds in the ears where you can kind of hide in a Globo gym, or get into a cold plunge or a really hot sauna, has clearly experienced what it's like to sit with themselves and has been through some real life challenge.
Absolutely. We're all human. We're all just trying to figure it out. If
Mm-hmm.
all of us were perfect and we had everything figured out, this world would be boring.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Very true. So what's your journey? How did you find cold plunging, and where did it start in your backyard?
You know, I think for entrepreneurs and small business owners, it's hard to say really what the start was, because I truly feel like everything in my life kind of led me to where I am today.
Mm-hmm.
But just for the sake of beginning, as we talked about, Soul Plunge was really born in the mud. My husband and I were going through some really tough challenges with our mental health.
Mm-hmm.
And
Was this pandemic time or before?
Yeah, let's open up the can of pandemic.
Yeah, totally.
That was a potent time for the fertilizer, if you will,
Yeah.
of Soul Plunge. And I feel like COVID is something that we all kind of packed away into this neat little box and hid it in the attic for a bit. Didn't want to talk about it.
Such a great description.
Yeah, it was traumatic.
I feel that.
Yeah, exactly. It was a traumatic experience. But what COVID did was it was also a gift because it forced us all to go inward.
Yeah.
And it forced us all to look at our lives and think, is this what I want? Because at the drop of a bucket, the whole world could change. The whole world could shut down. And so
It made this relationship with uncertainty and impermanence tangible, which really didn't feel good. And I think
yeah.
it's a mystery looking forward and it's science looking back. So like in the moment, it was like awful. But now looking back, you're like, whoa, that taught me so much about the human experience. And I'm sort of thankful for it, but I also wish it never happened.
Everything's meant to happen. Nothing's a coincidence. And I think we can find silver linings amongst that pain that we all experienced, and we can find purpose. And that is what we ended up doing. So in that mud of COVID, when we were dealing with these mental health challenges, I, had been into yoga and meditation, but there was still something missing in my tool belt of mental health. And also during COVID 2020, I was supposed to get married. My husband and I were supposed to have our wedding, and we obviously had to push that, which at that time, that was very uncommon. You set your wedding date years in advance and you stuck to it. And so having to reschedule the wedding was very heavy. And the day that we were supposed to get married, we had planned a trip to Montana to go to Glacier National Park. It's kind of like our consolation for what would have been our wedding day.
I just had a client go there literally like last week, and he this morning sent me like 20 pictures from there. I was like, this place is gorgeous.
It's amazing. We did end up going, but the night before we were supposed to leave for the trip, Matt was like, you know what? My throat's feeling a little scratchy. I'm not feeling 100%. And he's got a big heart, big conscience. He didn't want to get on a plane if he was going to expose somebody. So he took a test and it came back positive for COVID. I already had my bags packed. We were ready to go.
Your expectations are just getting like atomic bombed.
It was the straw on the camel's back.
Yeah.
And it broke me. I had my first panic attack. And if you've had a panic attack before, it's extremely scary. I was hyperventilating. I was in the fetal position in the bathroom, and Matt didn't really know what was going on either. None of us had experienced this before. And so he was a little confused, and I just couldn't catch my breath. But that moment opened up this opportunity for him and I to get really raw on our mental health and for it to become part of our everyday conversation, which has made our relationship so much stronger. And we're also in business together. He helps me with Soul Plunge. He's kind of the secret glue that keeps it all together. And so leaning into being a business partner with your partner in life is also a whole different dynamic. And I feel like this really set us up for success with that, to be open about where we're at.
I love that. Just last night, my wife and I are coming up on 6 months of marriage now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we're still figuring out our systems. And like we had this like awesome roadmap, and she's a pediatric nurse. And so all of a sudden everything gets flipped on its head because she starts working nights. And I was like, whoa, I haven't experienced this since I used to work at the fire department. Like your circadian rhythm's off. Our rhythm of the home is off. The time with the dogs is off. And so just last night, we literally had this like beautiful, in-depth, intimate conversation around like, hey, like let's carve out time for like a coffee date where we can discuss like our personal relationship with one another and really make sure, like, I'm a brand new business owner. Like, I'm going to be busy a lot of the time. However, I want to make time for the things that matter. And then also have a conversation, because she's my co-founder in life. You know, on paper, she's not my co-founder of AllSmith, but like behind the scenes, man, she helps me in every way, shape, and form. And so like having that personal conversation, that professional conversation, it's so important to work on your marriage. If you're just going to wing it and be like, yeah, I love each other and this, that, and the other, it's like, that works until the storm comes. And I think those intimate moments, whether it started by a panic attack, whether it started by working nights, whatever the like catalyst was, I really do think, like you said, like it didn't happen by coincidence. It happened on purpose so you and Matt could get that anchor in the ground. So when the storm comes, the foundation is strong.
Yeah, Absolutely. I love how you put that about how if you want something, you have to make it happen. You have to make the time for it. And Matt and I have been talking about that a lot recently because we've been so focused on the business. It's been work, work, work for the past year plus. And so our thing that we've been making lately is joy. And we've been
That's cool.
making time for joy. And I think some people think, you know, you just do all the things and it will just come. It's like, no, you got to make time for that. You got to make time for the things that light you up.
Mm-hmm. So as Mel Robbins says, and I actually texted this to a bunch of people within our All Smith tribe. I was like, hey, today's going to be a great day. Like, look yourself in the mirror and like high five yourself in the mirror.
Hell yeah. Love
like,
me some Mel.
I love it. She's great, by the way. And it's so interesting because like people always say things along the lines of, hey, she's not like, she wasn't like Rogan on Fear Factor. She wasn't like this thing or that thing. It's like, yeah, but she's so consistent. She's raw. She's real. She's relatable. And not everybody needs the pro athlete, the resume. Sometimes it's just like you're amazing as a human and you articulate things in a way that's really digestible for a large volume of people. I'm a huge Mel Robbins fan.
Huge fan. She is so authentic and like you said, makes things really digestible and relatable. And it's like you're talking to a friend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, talking to somebody that has it all figured out, has all the success, has all the answers. How do you relate to that person?
Well, that person's also full of shit. You know that and I know that.
Yeah.
In the sense of like, none of us have it figured out. And that's actually like my question next as a business owner and a thought leader within the space. Like sometimes I get in the cold plunge and people are like, oh, it looked so easy for you. And it's like, yeah, but it didn't start that way. Like I was going through panic attacks, just lost my dad to cancer, tore my ulnar collateral ligament in my elbow, and couldn't really figure out like the next path. And I ended up at what was like it was like a career / like industry type day up at Laird Hamilton's house with XPT. And I'm not water competent. I sort of figure out how to swim at the CrossFit Games a few times. But I'm a land athlete. And so like I can figure out the water, but I don't really enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I surrendered to it. I was like, you know what? Like this allows my body to be a little bit buoyant and kind of connect with things that are less impactful on my joints. I created buy-in because at that time Joakim Noah was working with Laird in the pool. And then I related to Gabby Reese just being a taller athlete and a jumping athlete in volleyball. And something about their relationship really like kind of pulled my heart and my intuition to go up there. And I just became friends with them. And Laird really liked that like he would come up with these big, hairy, audacious things. And I'd be like, yeah, let's try it. And I was just kind of like a guinea pig with him and we'd play. But there was this moment where we did the sauna. And we're in there. And we actually did some like assault bike interval things in there and just kind of screwed around. But me, I'd never been in a cold plunge like that before. Like I did it in college for like pseudo injuries, but I never like submerged my body, had the original freak out, and then been coached to like open my armpits, get the cold into my groin, get it into my pituitary gland and kind of settle in where it's now touching my vagus nerve. And I'm having that freak out. And, he was just talking me through, and at that time, I think it was like toxic masculine ego of like, I'm not getting out, homie's here. Like, I'm not going to like show that. And there's cameras everywhere at their house all the time. But over the course of time, it was like, whoa. Leading up to that, self-reliance was everything. If I just work harder and I fight against the grain, I'm going to figure it out. And it wasn't until the moment in that experience, it was probably like 3 minutes. It wasn't very long. Where I was like, I just need to surrender. The external is going to do what the external does, but I'm not going to grant it permission to live rent-free between my ears.
Absolutely.
And I'm not in control of most things. But if I can allow myself to and have that sympathetic original response, notice it, strive to transition to nasal breathing and become parasympathetic in the midst of this incredible stress. It's the epitome of everything beautiful, which is typically on the other side of blood, sweat, and tears. So it became this analogy of life. And I say to people, and they don't really get it, but I say like, hey, the sauna and the cold plunge like saved my life. Like I didn't know where to go after this other journey. And so now I just want to like pay it forward and share it with anybody that'll listen to my bullshit. And I feel like you might have something similar where it like touched you in a certain way and you're like, wow, this thing is like a magical tool. If we could put this in a pill, it would be the highest grossing pharmaceutical drug ever.
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% resonate with that story. And just a little bit more about my background. I grew up in upstate New York, so it's always the top 5 snowiest cities in America, Syracuse. And when I graduated college, I ran away from the cold. I came to sunny San Diego. So it's very ironic that I started a cold plunging business because I hated the cold. But what happened was,
It's funny.
if we go back to COVID, I was in this really toxic work environment and had been at this company for a while. I was in sales and tech, and I have always been an overachiever in my life. I had a 4.0 in college. I did all the extracurriculars. I do all the things, and I pride myself on that. And so COVID was the first time I didn't hit my sales quota. And I remember setting a meeting with one of the VPs of sales there, which I was intimidated by him. And it took a lot of courage to set up that meeting. And I was telling him everything that I was doing to try to hit this quota. And at the end of my spiel, he said to me, you know, Mia, you've been focusing a lot about, you know, what you've done for this company the past 5 years, but this is a what have you done for me lately job. And I was choking back tears, and it felt like a punch in the gut. But that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because that was the moment that I decided I deserved so much more. And I got a new job about something that I was passionate about. And that was kind of the first step about me taking steps towards myself, about me making decisions, not because I should do something, should do it this way, should do it that way, or what I've been trained or culturally patterned to do. I did something for me. And that was really the moment that I think allowed me to choose myself and to choose these things in my life that I want to put more energy towards. And so also in this time is when we started cold plunging. I took Matt to our first cold plunge. We cold plunged together, and in my first cold plunge, I let out a noise that I've never heard come out of my body before. Something was awoken inside of me. It was like, holy shit, what was that? And so after Matt and I cold plunged, we kind of looked at each other and we're like, whoa, that was crazy. And I don't know if I'm ever going to do that again. But Matt is the type of person that once he has his mind set on something, he's set. And so he bought the Wim Hof book, read that, started taking cold showers, started filling our bathtub with bags of ice. We started inviting friends over. There would be like 6 of us in my tiny little bathroom, all cold plunging in the bathtub, and all the water splashing everywhere. Our entire bathroom's becoming a pool. And I'm like, this isn't sustainable.
Yep.
And so Matt bought a grizzly cooler, biggest cooler you can find on the market. It's made for like big game hunting.
Yep.
And we put that in our backyard.
That's where I started too.
Exactly.
And you get in there and you do the whole Flex Seal thing. And you're constantly playing with it. And then you have 6 people over and you look at the concentration of the water, and there's like lint, hair, all the different, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And then you pause for a second. You're like, let me look at my credit card statement. Oh my gosh, I'm spending $150 on ice every 3 days at the local liquor store or gas station. Like, this is a pain in my fucking ass. But I feel so good that it's so worth it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so he bought this cooler. It's like $1,000+. And I'm like, well, shit, he got this cooler. So I got to try it again. I got to cold plunge again. And so I don't tell a lot of people this when they first start cold plunging with us, because it's already a very intimidating practice. But the first 3 times I cold plunged, I was hysterically crying. I had no control over my nervous system response. As soon as my nervous system went into fight or flight, I had no way to bring it back down. And that's nervous system regulation, right? It's the ability to take back control, to shift on and off the fight or flight, the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, the rest and digest. So I was just sent. And that's been the greatest teaching of the cold plunge, is how to take back control when my body wants to go into that fight or flight.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. I also am curious. outside of your relationship with your husband, how did you create the buy-in to want to do it? Because some people, you and I both know this, are like, oh, that's just not for me. And you're like wanting to support them in that and meet them where they're at. But you're also like, you don't know what you don't know. You're thinking of it in a way that's not a chemical response. You're thinking of it as like this external thing as opposed to this internal thing. And because the fitness influencer space and all the thought leaders talk about it, it's like working out. And you see the post now, like, women shouldn't do it super cold. It's not great for muscle mass. And now, like, you're getting all this tensionist pushback against cold plunging. Fine, sure. Maybe some of that's true. Maybe it's getting lost in the sauce a little bit. My biggest, like, response to that is, come try it. Spend some time with me in the muck. And I guarantee on the other side, if you surrender to the experience, you're going to have some sort of lotus-like blossoming effect. We had that experience this last weekend. Like, one of my clients gets in, she wants to get out. And I said, just hold my hand, count to 5. And then she surrendered down a little bit. Then she found her breath. Then she found her nasal breath. Then she found the calm. Yeah. And, I wasn't sitting there with a watch. I feel like that's a little bit overly measurable and intimidating. So I sat there and just like kind of observed her body language and used my intuition to try to not necessarily elongate the practice, but find the right dosage that I felt like was necessary for her. And then strived to let go of her hand where she felt independently capable and strong to kind of do it on her own. And then my role was to just create the container and let her be in that space. She got out, and I mean, this is a woman in her 50s. She texted me later that night, and she was like, Bryce, I have no idea what happened in that sauna cold plunge experience today, but like, I've never felt this good. And she was having a hard time sleeping, and she was like, I slept better than I've ever slept before. So yes, like, there might be scientific data where it's better here, better there, worse for this, whatever, sure. But when you have that experience, you're like, whoa, this can be an amazing tool to enhance the quality of my life. And because of that potential and the minimal risk and the high potential of reward, I'm like, let's go. Like, I want everybody to do this shit.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy how many times we heard this changed my life when we were just having those backyard classes. So we took that grizzly cooler and we started inviting friends over. And then our friends of friends would come, and then friends of friends of friends. And we were hosting a class every Sunday where we would just do breath work and cold plunge. And I remember the first Sunday when I looked around and I didn't know one person there. They're all in my home and they're all strangers, that became friends. And I looked at Matt and I'm like, there's something here. People need this. They don't even know they need it, but they need it. And that's when we knew we had something special. And the backyard times were so special because it was such an intimate environment. And Matt and I would lead each class together. And so there was this really cool balance of masculine and feminine.
That's great.
And I think for so long, cold plunging had been a very masculine practice. It was modernized in the West for athletic performance and muscle recovery, which it's amazing for. But when you bring the feminine into it, which is what you described of, we're not going to get in the cold plunge and tense up and suck it up and stay in there for as long as we can and just be stoic. We're going to get in the cold plunge and be messy. We're going to let all of our shit out. We're going to scream, we're going to cry, we're going to feel all those things, and then we're going to pull ourselves back. The cold plunge forces you to be in the present moment. You can't think about anything else but right here and now. And so when I guide people through the cold plunge, I tell them, all I want you to think about is your breath. Just slow your breath down. And when you teach your body, hey, I can get into this state of fight or flight, this state of panic, and I can use my breath to bring myself back down, that is proof. That is telling your body, hey, we can do this outside of the cold plunge. We don't cold plunge to get good at cold plunging. We cold plunge to get good at life. So that when life throws us stress, when life throws us challenges, we're like, hey, we've been here before. I can use my breath and I can come back home to myself.
That's so beautiful the way you shared that.
Thank you.
I love that it's relatability to life, because that's a big thing, right? Like you see the fitness influencer world, and they're great in the gym, but it's like 6 hours in the gym, and you're like, what if you run a business? What if you're a husband, a wife? What if you have interests outside of that? Like, it should be the catalyst that gives you the freedom and flexibility to do what you want, when you want, how you want. But there's so much pat on the back validation and love from that. And now the famous quote in this space is, can you cold plunge without like videoing it? You know what I mean? Like, it's been the big thing for the last couple of years, as it's really floated to the surface as like modern day biohacking thing.
Yeah, which I love. Not enough people do it still, even though we live in this world of algorithms and social media where it feels like everyone we know is cold plunging. There's still such a small percentage of people that do it, and do it consistently, because that's really part of the practice too. It's not the one and done that's going to completely change your life. It's constantly showing up for yourself.
Why do you think people step over hundreds to pick up pennies, Mia? And what I mean by that is, you just described an idea of, hey, slow down your breath, practice the art of consistency, be present in the space. Simple modalities. To the modern consumer listening to this conversation, they're like, I can do that. That's easy to grab. But is it really? Because what I see is, what temperature should it be at? How long should it be? How many days a week should I do it? Everybody's fucking looking for the metrics. Everybody wants these measurables so that they can like justify it. And I'm a huge fan that like everything that's measured doesn't always count, and everything that counts isn't always measured. And it's frustrating being on this side of things, because you just want people to experience it the way that you know can positively change their life for the better. But they get lost. Yeah. They want the numbers, they want the thing, and it's the ego getting in the way. It's the wanting of validation, like, oh yeah, I cold plunge for 15 minutes. It's like, really? That's a long time. Like, people that actually do this, like, probably go 3 minutes, maybe, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more, but it's like somewhere in that range. And we were in there for that long, like totally cool, totally possible. I'm not like, fighting the semantics, but I am just like, what is your and Matt's strategy to help people understand to just surrender to the experience, as opposed to trying to egotistically grab the measurables and flex?
Yeah, I think it's this beautiful balance of effort and ease. Of course, we all see the influencers and the social media competitions of who can stay in the longest. There are diminishing returns to staying in for too long. There's a scientist by the name of Susanna Soberg, who's done a lot of the modern day research on cold plunging. If you listen to like Andrew Huberman, he often quotes her research. So 11 minutes per week, it's really all you need. So that can be across multiple sessions. And so I think part of this too is not just measuring time or measuring your heart rate or whatever it is you want to measure. It's learning about yourself. Every body is different. And what works for me might not work for you. And so that's a beautiful part of the practice, is just learning about your body, learning about what feels good. Do you want a sauna first? Do you want a cold plunge first? What do you want to end with? What are you trying to take away from this experience? And really allowing yourself to be present, because this culture has really trained us that we are just numbers. Bring it full circle here. What have you done for me lately?
Yeah.
Produce, go. What if we took a step back and really thought about, what does abundance mean for me? I think that's been a big part of my journey in stepping away from corporate America and stepping away from the perfectionist of wanting to be this, picture perfect measure of success, and really looking at, okay, well, what does abundance mean for me? Abundance for me is happiness. It's freedom. It's being able to share what I've learned with other people And the most fulfilling part is seeing the impact that it makes on other people's life. But in order to really share like your pains and your purpose, you got to go through the mud. You got to experience it. You've got to be in that space in order to hold the space for other people.
I like that. What's coming to mind is the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek. The cold is scary.
Yeah.
Everybody wants peace. Everybody seemingly wants an altered state of consciousness where they don't necessarily have to be, because we live in a world of distraction, whether it's conscious or subconscious. We're scrolling. Marijuana's legal now. People still drink. Netflix's biggest competitor is sleep. Getting the cold is hard. And everybody wants to justify the means as to why it's not good. But like you said, it's a place where everything else disappears and you're in that moment. Yeah. And going back to that quote, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure that you seek.
I love that. We like to say at Soul Plunge, we're the most comfortable place to get uncomfortable. It's kind of along those same lines. It's in that discomfort where we can find our greatest strengths and our greatest purpose. So how can we get there more? How can we explore that edge and really find out what's there?
I like that. Based on cold plunging, we talked about the concept. We talked about breath work. We talked about where it started, where it's going, and there's still more layers to pull back. But in order for something to have sustainability, like we talked about previously, it needs to have a container, right? Like if I relate it to basketball, if there's no rules, there's no boundaries, the weight of the ball, the size of the ball, the size of the hoop, the height of the hoop, if it's always changing, inevitably it creates this chaos within the headspace that it's not necessarily measurable or repeatable. That sounds hypocritical because of what I just said around like everything that's measured doesn't always count, everything that counts isn't always measured. But there's got to be boundaries that we kind of play in. Otherwise, it's like dip in the cold and you're fine. Or it's like stay in there for 20 minutes and you're fine. It's like there needs to be something there. And the reason why I bring that up is that, at least for me, CrossFit kind of became that. It was like the rules were always changing. The method to get to the CrossFit games was always changing. And it kind of became this thing of like, you're just making up rules. And I think bodybuilding is maybe a little similar in the sense of like in the beginning, you need some structure. And then as you become more advanced and less of a novice, you can intuitively kind of play with the push and pull and the volume and the dosage. I'm curious as far as like what you guys do as a business entity to guide people through this practice. How do you guys create the structure as far as ambiance, mental connection, and creating a safe space for people?
Yeah.
The preliminary breath work of a ramp up and a ramp down. And then obviously the integration of the contrast, which then is going to have its own social experiment case dependent on the individual.
Yeah, absolutely. So Matt and I met because we both studied hospitality in college. And so I think we were in a really unique position opening Soul Plunge because we had this different perspective. I wasn't a yogi first that, just loved yoga and wanted to share yoga. I was a business person. I worked in startups. And I worked in hospitality. Matt still works in hotels. And so in building Soul Plunge, I saw this gap in the market where it's kind of like coffee, where you had, Starbucks come and then all these like little coffee shops started opening up that were more than just a place to go and get coffee. They were like a whole experience. They were this whole ambiance, this place that people wanted to go and hang out with their friends and take photos and stay there for a while. And I was seeing a gap in the market that there weren't really yoga studios in San Diego that I had been to that were that full encompassing experience, not just going for a class. And so in creating Soul Plunge, we brought a lot of the dynamics of hospitality into that experience where I wanted the moment somebody walked in the door for them to feel like they belong. It's my pet peeve when you walk into a yoga studio and they don't say hi to you.
Yeah.
I want each person to be seen as a human I'm so glad you're here. Welcome. And so we were extremely intentional about the humans that hold the container in our space.
That warms my heart. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Dogs do that.
Exactly.
They do it naturally.
Yes.
But as humans sometimes, and I don't think it's always purposeful. I think sometimes there's like, oh, I don't want to bother that person. I think sometimes it's scary because of the potential for rejection. Or maybe you'll say something and it won't be received the way you intended it to be. But I say, like, fuck that. Like, I say, like, take the risk. Say hello. At the very least, you get rejected. But that puts you right back to where you started. You really didn't lose anything. It just didn't feel good.
The Trident family taught me something really important this last year, that we are all a bundle of stories, both good, bad, and everything in between. All of their cold brews remind their customers that they are part of something bigger than themselves. I start my day with the Sweet Cream Cold Brew as I am prepping my mind and body for fitness, service, coaching, and podcasting. With various locations in San Diego, they offer over 14 nitro cold brews and a variety of specialty drinks. You can find the perfect brew and pair it with one of their treats from the Keto Bakery. You can check them out over at tridentcoffee.com and use code ALLSMITH to take your coffee experience to the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, and we had an amazing designer, Chelsea, who helped us build this beautiful space that people want to come into, which I think initially gets people in the door. They're like, hey, that's a really cool looking yoga studio. But what makes them stay is the people and the space that we've created in not having a doormat that says, leave your worries at the door. We're like, hey, bring all your worries inside. Feel it all here. And there's not going to be any judgment around that. Feel the shame, feel the heartache, let it all come out of you, because if we just keep shoving things down, it takes so much energy to keep shoving down.
Oh, yeah.
And so eventually all that energy is causing dis-ease in our body. We're going to get sick. We're going to burn ourselves out. And so if we don't have these safe spaces where we feel comfortable to get uncomfortable, then we're going to get sick. We're going to burn out. And so I think the magic of Soul Plunge is not only that we made it this unique business where it offers all of these tools that helped us with our mental health, but it's also the community. It's everything. It would be nothing without the people. And so just so grateful for all the people that have stepped through the door and continue to grow Soul Plunge into what it is today.
That's beautiful. I love the fact that you guys just say, bring it. Like, bring it in.
Yes.
I'm like that too, where it's just like, if we need... My buddy Logan, who runs Deuce Gym up in Venice, he has a sign that says, you don't need to work out to kick it. And I like that because it's one of those things of like, yeah, like working out's great. It's going to get some endorphins. It's great for your health. We can go down the rabbit hole of that.
Yeah.
But it's also like, sometimes you need to work out. Sometimes you need to work in. Sometimes you need to work hard. Sometimes you just need to move your body. Sometimes you actually just happen to come to a meeting ground, which outside of like church, you really don't have that anywhere other than like a wellness studio or a facility.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool. Like outside of high school, maybe college, you go to this place and there's this community and like people that you kind of see frequently that are after the same goals that you are, and you guys can kind of chop it up. And I'm sure that leads to depth of connection and coffee dates and meeting of families and following each other on social. And on and on and on. But I love that it's bringing it. It's like, don't hide who you are. Don't put on a mask when you come here and feel like you have to do this stoic thing. It's like, go feel.
Yeah, absolutely.
And within that vulnerability, it breeds energetic, real connection rather than this surface level pseudo-tensionous, yeah, we work out together. We just did that thing. We did that hard thing. It's like, yes, very true.
Yeah.
But like that's like here, and it's like I think people are starting to crave this, even though that's scary.
Absolutely. I think that there is this gap in our culture where previously we used to have like YMCAs, we used to all go to church, we'd have like places for community to gather, and we've gotten away from that a little bit. And I think that places like Soul Plunge that are focused around wellness, it's not just like a bar to go to and get drunk, like places for people to hang out and actually do something good for your body is so needed.
Yeah.
And I think people are magnetized to that because they're like, hey, I can build community. I can make friends here in the sauna. We can all hang out and we're doing something good for ourselves. These are people that elevate me.
Yeah.
You have to be around people who lift you up in this healing journey. One of my favorite quotes is, healing is a solitary journey that we can't do alone.
That's beautiful. That might need to be the title of the episode.
Yes, and it's so true. If I didn't have the humans that held safe space for me to be here today, I wouldn't be here. And so I'm really just passing that along and holding that safe space for other humans to show up with everything that they are.
Healing is a solitary journey that we can't do alone. It's like tattooed on my heart right now. That's I love that one.
Yeah.
It's tough though. I think women do a better job of that, where they show vulnerability and they bring down the guardrails and connect with one another. And there's this beautiful intuitiveness to the feminine that men don't necessarily have. I think some people, it's starting to become a little bit mainstream in some way, and then on the other side, it's like avoidance. You don't really see it too much in the middle. And I'm trying to make that cool again. Like, we host Forged Experience retreats with Joshua Church from Edge Theory.
Yeah.
He's been in that chair before, with Q Williams, Quentin up in Carlsbad, Encinitas area. Great people that I'd love to connect you with.
Absolutely. Oh, I know Josh.
Josh is great.
Oh, yeah.
And he did like an amazing breathwork experience at one of our retreats maybe a couple months ago. And we just chopped it up, and he was so vulnerable about his experience with Edge and the transition into what he's doing now. But most people, let me rephrase that, most men stoically have some sort of justifiable excuse as to why something didn't work. But I brought on a healer when my mom passed, and one of the things we talk about a lot is take ownership and responsibility. What you're not changing, you're choosing. Where do those character traits and those concepts come up for your business model? Because that's the stuff that really establishes like an inner tribe amongst your community of like, yes, we're going to do hard things, but we're also going to honestly look ourselves in the mirror and take an inventory of our behavior, our actions, our relationships, our habits. And that way there is a transferability of what I'm doing in the cold plunge in the wellness facility is translating to a better life.
Absolutely. I think balance is an act that we are constantly doing. It's not like you find balance once. You're like, hey, I did it. Found balance. It's a constant practice. And that balance of effort and ease has been constant in owning a business, because also I made these practices that were my sanctuary, my healing, into my business. So that's changed the relationship with them. And so that's also been an interesting dynamic for me to play with, because now when I go to a yoga class or a breathwork class, my logical mind wants to be on all the time. That masculine energy of like figuring it out, action, like, oh, how did they cue that? Or the light's too bright or the fan's too loud, that logical mind. But it's that balance of coming back to myself and coming back into the feminine and the ease of just feeling and sensation and pulling myself into that present moment. And so I think this is something that we all work on every day of our lives. Mental health, 100% of humans have mental health, right? And so same with balance. We're all just trying to find balance. And I think if you can find that balance of effort and ease, that's a beautiful place to be.
I mean, that's the epitome of flow, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, Bruce Lee said it so simply. Be water.
Yes.
And like water flows, water moves. I think the ocean's a great example of that, where it gets mad or it gets angry sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Big waves. But also you look at, how does it get rid of toxins? How does it relate and create sand dollars and seashells and create this vibrant energy of positive and negative energy? You go there, you get the sandy toes, you observe what's going on with the water, and all of a sudden something happens where you just feel better. I think you guys are creating that at Soul Plunge as well. But I very much am curious. Someone coming from the business world that I'm also curious where the love and the validation stems from in your life around high performer, good grades, do all the thing, because that usually leads to somebody that works for somebody that's disruptive. That, you know, is the high performing, high achiever for somebody that's like a C student that gave the middle finger to the system in the world and is just like, hey, I'm going to go create this thing and I don't care.
Yeah.
And you found your way to kind of do both, which really intrigues me.
Yeah.
Because I grew up getting love from mom for like straight A's and good grades. And I got love from dad for performing in sports. And then once I got a little bit older, I started kind of questioning the narrative of the education system a little bit more. And I was like, wait, so you want me to memorize these steps to perform on an exam, and then based on that exam, you're going to assign me a grade, which is then going to determine my future and the level of respect that you give me. Interesting. But there's no critical thinking there. I was like, not everything is these black and white answers. Sometimes there's a messy middle where things navigate within the gray area, which you probably see firsthand in entrepreneurship. So I'm curious, like you started this way with the logical mind, and you found this, like you said, ease from that effort.
Yeah.
That's this now beautiful balance where like, yeah, you need structure, you need systems and operations to run a free-flowing business. But you also need to not hold on so strong. You can't hold a lot of sand there. You can hold more sand with a little bit more of an open palm.
Absolutely.
How'd you figure that out personally in some of the experiences that you had leading to the development of your business?
Still figuring it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Smooth seas never made a skilled sailor.
Mm-hmm.
I often compare owning a small business to being like a surfer in waves that are way too big for you. Every
High
time.
five to that.
Yeah.
For
Every
real.
time you think you got over the massive wave, there's another one right behind it. And those waves in the beginning would toss me around a lot. And I would get really personally invested into every challenge and feel the weight of that. I feel a lot. I'm like a very deep person, an empath, some people might say. So I would feel the depths of all of these challenges and the impact that it was making on people. And what I found out is that I wasn't able to keep going with Soul Plunge and create this safe container for people if I was letting the waves take me. I had to pick myself back up, get back on my board, and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
And so instead of now letting those waves toss me around, I'm like, okay, this wave is a teacher. What is this wave teaching me?
Beautiful.
Yeah. And so you learn how to ride the waves eventually.
Yeah.
Still figuring some of those
it's
out.
so beautifully said. I met with my healer yesterday, and I was kind of word vomiting a little bit just in the beginning to try to paint the picture to create context. And I'm like, I'm still learning how to be a husband. My business is taking off more than it ever has before. I'm so busy. I'm trying to coach this demographic of people and this demographic of people. And then I'm trying to launch apparel. We've got an event this Friday. We just came off a retreat. I'm trying to market this, trying to run social media that. We're trying to do the podcast. And like, he goes, you chose this. And I was like, you motherfucker.
So true.
And then I realized I was just like falling into like my logical mind. And then I was like falling back into victim mentality headspace. And I was like, he's totally right.
Yeah.
This was the life that I wished for 5 years ago. And now it's here. And two words that you continually say that light me up, that I love, are practice and play. I don't know that the goal is to figure it out. Is everything figure outable? Yes. But maybe the goal is like when we make it to our mat, we're here to practice. I'm not going to be perfect every time in my tree pose or my pigeon, but I can notice, I can maybe seek some edges, or I can give myself grace based on the experiences that led to that moment, and I can meet myself where I'm at.
Absolutely.
And then I also think in the notice of what we're doing on the mat, what can we then diffuse that ideation into the world and notice certain patterns or communication strategies that are coming into you from people that care about you. And I think for a long time, I feel like you and other business owners will be able to relate to this. I felt very misunderstood. I'm like, you guys don't see all these things that I'm doing. You just see the one thing that's most important to you. And that's okay. I don't expect you to understand. But I do expect you to like give me grace in the fact that like you see a small corner of this picture and I see the whole freaking thing, and I have to observe the lighting and the landscape and the height and all the things. And it made me frustrated. It made me tensionous with other people. And then in that conversation yesterday, it was just like, whoa, that's okay. It's not their fault. And then there's some sort of power in saying, I take ownership and responsibility, and I need and want these people to take responsibility for that little corner so that I have the beautiful opportunity to look at the rest. But it gave me subtle peace knowing that I didn't need to fill in the gap as to why certain things weren't aligning with their expectations. It was like, as Mel Robbins would say, let them.
I was just thinking that. I'm sure you've read that book.
Oh, it's on repeat on my audiobook right now because there's so many nuggets. And I'm like, oh, that lands.
Oh, the let them theory.
So good right now.
It's so good. And like you said, it's that reframing of being like, it is such a gift that I can be tired and frustrated in the pursuit of my dream. Mm-hmm. You're going after your dreams. You're doing the thing. And if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yep.
And if it was easy, maybe it wouldn't be worth it.
Yep.
You're choosing to do something hard, and something magical is coming from that.
How do you navigate the land of feeling misunderstood maybe by employees, but understood by your husband / business partner?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And also patiently like listening. Not only creating a safe space for the clients and the members, right? And I've experienced that at other businesses where it's like in front of the members or the service that you're providing, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and then you get behind the scenes and it's like people don't really care about the employees. They just care about what'd you do for me lately. And I think that the secret to really growth and development and creating an incredible business is you actually care about your people first.
Yeah.
And then that energy, enthusiasm, and respect and love diffuses into the members because everybody is in alignment of energy, short-term vision, and long-term vision.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been an interesting dynamic because I've never been a manager before. This is my first time managing people, owning a business. And then on top of that, I have this dynamic of these people are my friends too.
Yes.
But it's also my business.
Yeah.
So
you went exactly where I was going to go next because I battle that too.
Yeah. So you've been there before. And what I found is similar to Mel's let them theory. If I tell people to do something a certain way, or if I voluntold someone to do this, I'm like, hey, Bryce, you're going to run my social media. If that's not your passion, if that's not what lights you up, that's not going to be a healthy dynamic either way.
Yeah.
So what I've really been leaning into with Soul Plunge with my employees is finding what lights them up, what they're passionate about, what aligns with us in Soul Plunge and what they're trying to do. And let's do that together. Let's lift each other up. And that's the most successful ventures that we've had is when we ask the employee, like, or my friend, hey, what is your dream? How can we combine our dreams? How can we do this together? And I think so far that's been working out the best.
Yeah, that's awesome leadership strategy. And it sounds so easy and fun, but it's also really hard because that question, I do it all the time in fitness. Mia, what do you want? People are like, well, I want this. I want my hormones to be great. I want to be lean. I want this. I want that. And really like patiently breaking that down into the raw and the real.
Yeah.
And in somewhere in there, for most people, it's somewhere in the realm of vanity and sanity. there's performance metrics that align in there and things that keep people chasing the carrot a little bit. But for the most part, something like cold plunging in community is this really beautiful, consistent tune-up for the vehicle.
Yeah.
You're changing the oil, you're lubricating the thing, you're enhancing the coolant, you're giving it a car wash, you're vacuuming up some of the miscellaneous dust, and all of a sudden that thing's vibing, you're feeling good. You're bumping the music the way you want. There's not lint and hair everywhere and miscellaneous coffee spills. It's like, okay, this thing's operating at its optimal capacity. Now I look good, I feel good, I play good. And the thing that's interesting to me, and you'll appreciate this, especially with your relationship with Reiki and energy, in order to do the thing that you want to do, you have to become the person. And I think that's ultimately what we're trying to do in the wellness space. The vessel may change. It might be breath work. It might be yoga. It might be fitness. It might be lifting things. It might be high rocks. It might be sauna cold plunge. But ultimately, we're trying to guide people towards their peak expression. So that way they become the person that is ready to receive and give in their peak expression, which is what they want. And when we get very clear on that, now we can work backwards and understand that right now we're echoing on COVID a little bit. Well, at the time, we couldn't see that. It was a mystery looking forward of uncertainty, FUD, fear, uncertainty, and doubt.
Yeah.
But now looking back, we're like, oh, without that, would I be where I'm at now? Was that a version of our millennial cold plunge? Maybe.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I think what COVID did and what we do for our employees and what you do with your coaching clients is a big part of this also feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Learning about ourselves and taking feedback not as something to take personally or take offense to. Feedback is a gift. And if you can master a way to give feedback from a place of love, it elevates everyone. And so that's absolutely something that we lean into as well with our employees is creating this culture of feedback. And I'm not just giving feedback to my employees. I'm asking for feedback all the time because we're all just figuring it out.
Mm-hmm. I have a friend that's a really successful business owner, and I just finished my MBA online, and I transitioned to taking one of his conferences just to learn more and try to put a little bit more practice behind the experiences that I had. And he goes, your willingness to receive negative feedback is directly correlative to your success. And I was like, ow. I was like, that hurts.
Yeah.
But when you're able to separate the personal from the professional, you realize that the feedback is simply a data point. And if you can actually create the space to receive a raw, unfiltered element of feedback, it helps you fail forward. It helps you make the improvement faster than if somebody's giving you more grace instead of truth. And then it's like you kind of stay in the land of comfortable complacency where it's like it's not terrible, but it's also not great.
Yeah.
It's just kind of there, and it can improve, but you don't really know it because you don't know what you don't know. But you just keep on trucking because you can't really see it.
Yeah.
But when somebody zooms in on your bullshit, you can then make the necessary adjustment. And I hated when he said that to me. I was like, I wasn't ready for that, man. But then I was like, okay. Fast forward 2 years, I'm like, all right, I think I'm ready for that. Like, fine.
Yeah. And I think a big part of that is first just getting the feedback from yourself.
Mm.
And that means slowing down long enough, like COVID forced us to do, to turn inward and being like, hey, am I happy in this complacent life that I've chosen for myself? And if the feedback that you're hearing is frustration or sadness or any feelings, take that as information and be like, okay, where do we go from here? How can I step forward and know that I'm safe?
Mm-hmm. Sounds like you went through a season in relation to feedback where you went from resistance to surrender. How do you help people do that in the cult?
Yeah. When you first get into the cold plunge, of course, your body's initial reaction is that fight or flight response. fight, flight, freeze, or fawn is a new one, actually.
What's fawn?
Fawn is kind of mirroring the current situation for survival.
Mm.
Kind of like doing people pleasing.
Mm.
Yeah.
I'm great at that.
Yeah.
I'm learning how to get better at it.
Yeah.
We'll discuss that later. There's a book called The Courage to be Disliked. I'm
Yeah.
excited to chat about that with you.
Absolutely. So yeah, noticing that initial response, and oftentimes, as you mentioned, that shows in the breath. Our breath is a mirror for our current nervous system state. So when we're stressed, think about running through the airport when you're late for a flight. Short, shallow through the mouth.
High
we're
up in the
calm,
scalenes in the chest.
everything's tense. When we're calm, we typically breathe through our nose. We're breathing into our belly using more of our diaphragm. And so I explain this to people before they get into the cold plunge. And I tell them the most important thing when you get in there is your breath. All I want you to think about is slowing your breath down, taking control of your nervous system, taking control of your body. And so we get in, we have that initial, they're okay with physical touch. I'll put physical touch on their shoulders, just letting them know you're here, you're safe. And the first thing I have them focus on is just their breath. Slow down your exhale, slow it down. You are safe, you are here. Let's be present, slow down our breath. And then there's this beautiful moment in the cold plunge we call the turnover, where someone goes from that state of fight or flight and they shift it to being in that parasympathetic state. Their heart
Feel
rate
that
lowers.
moment.
Yeah.
I love that you guys have like a moment that you depict it with a name. The turnover.
Yeah,
That's great.
the turnover. And you even described it about your client, the woman who was getting in the cold plunge. You can notice that point where they turn over. And then that's a beautiful point to insert some affirmations. So once they take back control and they know that they're safe, it's like, hey, you made it through the hardest part. You thought you couldn't do this, and you already did it. And what else in life do you think you can't do? And you're not trying because you have this story in your mind, I can't do it, right? And so then I just say affirmations. I am strong. I am brave. I can do hard things. All the pain and discomfort that you're feeling in your body is just all the bullshit that wants to be released. How can we soften into that? How can we use our breath to just go a little bit deeper? Maybe get those shoulders in, get the neck in, the vagus nerve where we hold a lot of our stress. And I bring kind of like a deeper element to the cold plunge rather than the physical, getting into the mental health, because that's how it all started, and even into some of the spiritual side of it. Where's that energy in your body? Where does it want to escape? Is your ankle feeling really cramped? That's probably because you have inflammation in your ankle. And so how can you send your breath there and ease into it? And then I do a fun countdown at the end. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. They get out, and it's such a beautiful moment seeing people smile on their face that they just did something that was really freaking hard that they thought they couldn't do. They stayed in longer than they thought they could. And then you get that dopamine rush, the endorphins, and people are like, holy shit, that was incredible.
Yep.
And we get a lot of athletes even that have come to Soul Plunge, and we guide everyone through their first cold plunge just to show them our little ritual that we do. And a lot of them are like, I've never experienced it like that before, because when you're an athlete, you get in, you're stoic, you suck it up, you're doing it just for the physical benefits. But when you bring in this feminine energy into it and create that balance, it opens up this whole new world with cold plunging. And I think that's one of the things that makes Soul Plunge unique. It's just not just another cold plunge that you're doing by yourself. It's a community. We're healing together, and we soften the experience. We bring a little bit of more feminine elements into it.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I also think there's not necessarily negative to the stoic component. I think there's a time and a place for it. But that singularly by itself is not good, in my opinion. I think you need the yin to the yang. And I love that you guys bring a little bit of both.
Yeah, and I think it's the authenticity of the stoicism.
Yes.
Because someone can look like they're calm,
Very
but
true.
then on the inside, they're freaking out.
Yeah.
So if you can have equanimity, having peace in your body amongst the chaos, and that's the type of stoicism, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I suppose the one I'm referring to is more of like, I want to look like I'm tough, but on the inside, I'm really freaking out.
Yeah, I like that. I like the honesty that you possess it with. If you were just to paint like a quick picture, if you and I just got into an elevator and you're like, I have this business called Soul Plunge, how would you paint that experience for me to come play?
I would say, yeah, the moment you walk through the door, you kind of just feel this. And then we offer these beautiful modalities of yoga, breath work, cold plunge, and sauna. We haven't tapped too much into the breath work side of this business, but that's been extremely powerful. And we invite you here to get uncomfortable in a safe container. And in that uncomfortability, you can find some magic. What's on the other side of your fear?
I like that. In a world that's now surrendering to tech convenience and either lack of travel or the 15-minute city where there's no parking anywhere and you have to walk to everything, I think you're picking up what I'm putting down. How do you create buy-in around the breath work? Because Wim Hof's got his apps, XPT's got their apps, and I've noticed a little bit of like resistance
Absolutely.
as far as the business side of things associated with breath work. And I love to curate it. Like, hey, I want to invite you to this experience. Like, have the experience before you pay for anything. I want you to feel what this investment is. But you and I also both know in order to maximize the return on investment, there needs to be skin in the game. And for most people, that's time, energy, attention, and money. And what's interesting to me is people are like, oh, I pay for that. I know what Wim Hof is. I know. It's like, well, yes, information is not the issue that we have here. It's the consistency of action. And it's also not every facilitator or facilitation of breath work is the same. I'm very familiar with breath work. I still hire a healer to guide me through because my way of doing it is not the same. Having somebody guide me through, hold my hand, make me a little uncomfortable, and surrendering to the experience outside of myself has been a game changer. But to the world right now, it's like, oh, you just use ChatGPT for that. It's like, well, yes, but now we're going to implement it in a specific strategy with the appropriate seasoning and with the appropriate energy around the food, with the sides and the sauces, that things that like you can't really see. And I'm curious how you guys create buy-in amongst that, because I don't think AI replaces this experience.
Yeah.
The idea of that to me is ignorance.
Yeah. If we go back to that quote, that healing is a solitary journey that we can't do alone, I feel like that's a big part of it. I love all the breathwork apps. They're amazing, and it's great to have that convenience, but there's something extraordinary about breathing in community, about physically being there and feeling that power of us all breathing together and going deep together and finding those edges and those releases. Breathwork can be pretty intimidating.
Yes.
Yeah, especially the more like holotropic, transformational, like those more intense 3-part breaths.
Also, note to self, doesn't always look good on camera. We've done that before. We had like a videographer at one of our retreats and we're doing breath work and we're like, ooh, yeah, that's not the best. Let's do a better job of this next time.
Oh my gosh, so funny. Yeah. It's messy. There's the mess. And maybe that's beautiful to capture some of that. But the way that we guide breathwork at Soul Plunge is our signature Soul Plunge class is what we started in our backyard. It's the breathwork followed by the cold plunge experience. And we try to design the class to give people tools to take to their everyday life. So it's similar to yoga, like what we practice on the mat is really just a metaphor for what we're practicing in life. Same with the cold plunge. We practice the cold plunge. That way when life throws us stress, we know how to bring ourselves back down. And so the first few breaths that we do are really just like grounding our body, playing with different types of breath that you can bring back to your everyday life. So we don't just go like right into the really intense breathing in our signature class, which I think is really beautiful because it shows people that there's so many different ways to breathe, to take back control of your body. And it depends what your goal is. If your mind's racing and you want to fall asleep, there's a breath that you can do for that. If you want to build energy before a workout, there's a certain breath you can do for that. If you're having anxiety before a big meeting, how can we breathe to bring ourselves back down? And so we provide our students with all these different tools. And then, of course, we got to find that edge, right? So we start cueing our students to visualize like this mountain up ahead. And in each class, we hike this symbolic mountain. So I think we all hike mountains every single day of our life. And every day we're different. So it's, what mountain are you climbing today? We're going to climb this together. If you go, I'll go.
Cool.
Yeah. And so we climb our mountain, we reach that peak, and then we sit there and we see what's at the top of our mountain. And it's really beautiful when people can push past the fear of going deep. When you're breathing really heavily, it can feel like similar sensations to like, when we're talking about having a panic attack. When you're hyperventilating, you can get tingles in your fingers, your lips, your face, and losing control is really scary for people, not having that control. And so I think creating the safe container of Soul Plunge and being in community where they're all supported, we're all in this healing journey together, we're all here for a reason, gives people permission to go to that depth, see what's there. And then we just do like a nice slow meditation back down our mountain where we just ground back into our bodies and slow ourselves down, because slowing down is not a luxury. It's a necessity. And I think we forget that in our go-go lives. And so when people go on this journey with us, I think it kind of speaks for itself, the power of that. And then adding the cold plunge on top of that, you just feel like a whole new person.
Mm-hmm. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. I can feel it.
Thank you.
Hearing your tone navigate and shift when you describe the signature breath work / cold plunge experience and relating it to your husband, Matt, and your community, I can just feel the vibration of you elevate to the space that feels godlike euphoria. Like you're on the right path.
Thank you.
I think that moment of this job is what have you done for me lately? Flipped a switch where you energetically threw a middle finger and you're like, I'm going to go do the thing. If you take that experience away, do you think you are where you are now? Or do you think you're still playing in corporate America and trying to sharpen the sword of achievement?
That moment was meant to happen.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was the best thing to ever happen to me. It led me here.
Totally. What's been your most powerful personal plunge? Was it in the cold? Was it overcoming something? For you, what's been the thing that changed everything?
So many things. But if I had to pick one, the moment that I decided to leave my previous job to start Soul Plunge. We talked about that first job, the what have you done for me lately, but I did another job after that, which was a beautiful opportunity, but similar sensations started happening in my body. And I had a big call coming up with a client. It was 8 a.m. Monday morning. And right before the call, I had my second panic attack. And I was like, oh, hell no. I do not want to be here again. And I just took that as a sign from my body telling me just to redirect. Mia, this isn't the way. Redirect. We got to do something new. And that was the first time in my life that I had quit a job with nothing else lined up before, which was super scary, especially like post-COVID with all the uncertainty.
How old were you at this time?
This was 2022. Yeah. So 28 years old. Yeah. 29 years old. And so, yeah, first time in my life, I quit a job with nothing else lined up. I was fortunate that I had Matt as, my backup, my safety net, but still I hold such personal pride in my success.
Yep.
I was also in yoga teacher training at that time. So you dive a lot into like, what is your dharma? What is your purpose here on earth? And I just kept coming back to creating that safe space for humans to find healing. And so the plunge for me was like to give up that control and give up that story in my mind that I had to have a certain number in my bank account or I had to have a certain title in order to be seen as this successful person. And really just stripping all of that away and creating space for myself to just be with myself. And in order to have creativity, we have to have space. We have to have
100%.
stillness.
100%. Our podcast that we launched today, we talked about that a ton. You cannot create in a space of confinement.
Yeah.
No way.
So in stripping all of that away, I had a lot of space. And that's where a lot of the downloads came for Soul Plunge and what really like started it all.
I think that's really cool that you had the capacity and the ability to do this inward self-assessment. Not everybody has that. Obviously, you had a little bit of a safety net. But what advice do you give people that get stuck in the rat race, Mia? That are like, hey, I went to school for this thing. I'm stuck in student debt. I have to work this job to pay down my student debt. I've got a car payment. I've got insurance. I've got health insurance. Maybe they're not parents and have kids, or, maybe they're not that deep yet. But that ideology sits there where they're stuck.
Yeah.
They're in artificial light. They're sitting in a cubicle doing a job that they hate. And they just can't escape. And a huge part of me, especially in our coaching, is like, hey, the thing mostly holding you back is the story you tell yourself. Like, what if? You don't want to sit on a park bench at 75 and wonder what you could have done. Like, what if you just take the change? You're right. It could completely fall apart. But it also could be beautiful.
Yeah. I think a lot of us get in this dangerous game of, I'll be happy when.
Yep.
I'll be happy when I get the next promotion, or when my bank account's a certain amount, or when I buy the house. And that's a never ending game. And so I would say to those people, like, first of all, give yourself some grace. You're doing amazing. Slow yourself down. Don't put so much pressure on yourself. And just take a step back and really tune inward. Sit with those emotions. Because I think maybe a lot of those people haven't taken time to slow down recently. And so take some time to slow down. Really sit with yourself. It's going to be hard at first. Meditation's really friggin' hard.
Very, 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 very hard.
Yeah. Sometimes I say breath work is like beginner's meditation, because breath work at least gives you something to focus on.
Yeah.
And it allows you to get to those depths that master meditators can get to more easily. Those depths of your soul, or enlightenment, if you will, just using your breath. So yeah, I would invite them to slow down and really think about, what does abundance mean for me? What truly is success? Beyond the bank account, beyond the house, like, what is it that you really want? Do you want connection? Do you want stability? Do you want to feel seen and heard and loved? And then start from there. And then just keep following what lights you up. Keep doing the things that bring you joy, being around the people that you feel elevate you. And then just begin. Whatever it is you're passionate about. If you're in,
I think that's the big one. I think
Yeah.
it's the word begin. And I think about, like, we're in San Diego. The dating culture is huge here. I feel like everybody on both the male and the female side has been on The Bachelor or The Bachelorette. Wellness is huge here. It's probably the mecca of wellness in relation to maybe Austin. That's probably the second one. There's cold plunges. There's coffee and ice. There's all kinds of boutique fitness models. There's things going on everywhere. But something that comes up for me is the courage to begin. The man or the woman in the arena. And I think what I'm observing right now, and you probably see this a lot in social media, there's a lot of spectators.
yeah.
They observe all the content on the stories, but they don't really engage. They don't really want to put a comment because they're afraid the pushback. Well, they had this idea of a business. They're sitting on a couch, but like money becomes the issue. How do I get investment? How do I do the thing? What if it fails? Then I'm going to be in debt. And then it's like, well, if I attend, I'm going to be hurt like I was in that last relationship. I shouldn't go on those dates. But what I'm kind of seeing is the power to begin teaches you more than anything that you could do from a book, a classroom, or a podcast.
Yep.
All those things are great. Yes, they can, sharpen the sword a little bit. But if you never go swing the axe that you sharpened for the last 15 months, the wood's not going to get chopped. How do you kind of create that conversation around like knowing is not enough. We must take action.
Absolutely. Yeah, if there's one thing I could say to people who are wanting to start a small business or an entrepreneurship, it's that just begin and don't compare your day one with somebody else's day 100.
For sure.
I think that's a huge part of it because that imposter syndrome comes up again. But hey, imposter syndrome is just a sign that that's a table you want to sit at.
Mm-hmm.
So follow that. Just begin. Take the next step and know that you are safe to keep going. And soon enough, you'll keep taking steps, and you're going to look back and you're going to be so damn proud of how far you've come.
Mm-hmm.
So that first step is the hardest.
Something happens in the headspace of the human, though. Like when you and I were in pre-K or kindergarten, we're playing in a sandbox. I was never like, oh, if I make this sandcastle, somebody's going to judge it or it's going to get knocked over. It's like, no, right now I'm going to make the freaking sandcastle. I'm going to make it as cool as I freaking can. When you relate that to business or even dating, it's like, oh, if I do the thing and it fails, how am I going to respond? Like we're already thinking outcome oriented rather than like presence, childlike, dog-like euphoria, creative because we want to, not creative because of what it's going to get in the form of validation or love. It's like you're making it because it's fun.
Absolutely.
Why does that change? And what is it about like wellness that brings us back to that?
Yeah.
Where it becomes a practice rather than a performance.
I love how you said that. That's something that we talk about in the yoga lineage that I recently trained in. I just went to Thailand this past June.
Very cool.
Did my 300-hour yoga teacher training.
Was it with Jonah Kest and
Jonah
Brandon
Kest.
Brigado?
Yeah, and Kirsty Page.
Oh, they're amazing. They've all sat in that seat and they're all,
yeah.
wow. I just got goosebumps just because the conversations with all those guys, I paused purposefully just of, I don't know them as well as I know Tana, but I felt different in their presence.
Yeah.
And I very much appreciate their practice and what they're doing in the world. And I think you guys have a very amazing tribe that's making a true difference.
Absolutely.
I'm stoked you went to that. I was following all your guys' content and I was like messaging Brandon on the
yes.
side. I'm like, dude, this looks so cool.
It was incredible. And one of the things that was most impactful about that training wasn't all the lessons on anatomy and philosophy, although those were beautiful. It was the time in between that we just played. We would just, flip up into some handstands, try some new tricks, laugh, play, record content. And that's where really inspiration is born.
Mm-hmm.
It's forgetting about the output, the numbers, the metrics, and just doing it for the sake of joy, for the sake of fun. And then you're like, oh, I've never done that before. That was fun. I'm going to keep doing that.
I have a really good friend. She's a famous photographer. Her name's Brooke. And she captures the in-between. She might prompt you and be like, Mia, here's this idea, do this thing. And she'll shoot a little bit, but like she knows that that's not the shot. The shot's as you're getting out of your head into your heart and you're kind of transitioning into, oh, that didn't work. I'm thinking too much. Da 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 da. Boom, that's it. And when I think back to high-level athletics, I was never really the biggest, the fastest, or the strongest. But I could let go of things and transition to the next pretty quickly. And I think about that like in the podcast, when I watch other people, it's like they're labeling off questions. I'm like, man, this feels like a 60 minutes interview. I think about like the transition of like, oh, that's a cool, it sparked this thought. Let me go there. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about transitions, it's this versus
The flow.
robotic, like box, like very masculine, like fucking 90-degree angle things. Like that doesn't feel good. It's not as fun.
Absolutely. And we can make that a metaphor for life. If we're talking about those entrepreneurs and those small business owners just beginning, like I didn't just wake up one day and had a successful yoga studio. It was all those flows in between, all those transitions that really built the foundation for me to be where I am today.
That's strong. That's very cool. When you think about play and curiosity, how do those two things align with your healing?
Yeah. I think this goes full circle to what we talked about in the beginning of Matt and I just honing in on this word of joy. Because if we're so go and so hustle all the time, and we're not making space for play, space for creativity, space for joy, what's the point of it all?
Yeah.
I said to Matt recently that, I'll know I have balance when, that dangerous game, I can start doing pottery again.
Yeah.
I would do pottery classes just for fun, not to sell my pottery or to create a business around it, just for the sake of playing with some clay. And it was our anniversary in August, and he bought me a pottery wheel.
That's rad.
Yeah. And it was just such a beautiful moment to be like, hey, we can choose joy and play right now. Just because we have the work doesn't mean we can't have this balance of the joy. That is so necessary to fill our cup in order to pour that into what we love.
Totally. As a business owner, when there is constant demand, and inevitably, you're going to be the bottleneck sometimes. You're going to have people that need things from you, but you're also wanting to be content with self and content as a wife and content as a woman and a daughter, a family member, somebody that's related to nature. How do you draw those boundaries? Because something that I'm noticing is ghosting culture. And I try not to take it personal because in my mind, I'm like, you know what? You're living your life. You're on your own timeline. Who am I to have these expectations of a response within 2 to 3 days? Like, you might be doing something. You might not be okay. There could be something going on. So I try to hold space for the phrasing that I love, which is seek to understand. But I also think what's more important than upfront honesty is transparency. And so as a business owner, I often say like, hey, thanks so much for that reminder. I'm going to need X, Y, and Z time frame, or I'm in the midst of doing this thing right now. Not because I feel the need to justify, but because I want to ease the other person's tension, because I don't want them to be guessing or wondering. I want to be respectful of time frames and deadlines, which inevitably land in our made-up timescape of the world. And they are important. But also because I believe that that's respectful. And that doesn't always land with people. Sometimes it's like, oh, I saw it. And it's like, well, how do I know that? Yeah. If you don't like it, you don't provide acknowledgement. And that's happening more and more in the world. We're seeing it in social media. We're seeing it in text. We're seeing it in, Facebook posts and things like that. Be like, oh yeah, I saw your thing. And it's like they almost like act like they know or things like that. But it's like, that's a made up construct where it's like you could have posted a picture from 15 weeks ago, but they assume that it's now. So in the landscape of this relationship between honesty and transparency, how do you provide boundaries for yourself, but also optimal communication strategy to build that trust and that love?
Free is the way to be. Life beats us up a bit and causes some bumps and bruises, but that doesn't mean we have to stay on the sidelines. This is why we've partnered with Kinyan Labs. Get back to doing what you love with this incredible portable device designed to get you back in the game. Kinyan is on a mission to move people from pain to possible with their top-rated red light therapy and laser solution, which tackles inflammation along with muscle and joint pain quickly and effectively. What I love is that it's portable and rechargeable, making it easy to actually incorporate into my everyday life consistently. It's small and lightweight, so you can throw it in your gym bag or work bag, or even an overnighter. Kinyan's lasers and LED combo make this cutting-edge device extremely versatile for use with general aches and pains, as well as chronic back pain, arthritis, post-surgery recovery, endometriosis, and more. This has been an amazing tool keeping my elbows and knees pain-free for pressing, pulling, and squatting in the gym. Great tools like the Move Plus give me the freedom and flexibility to continue living life on my terms without limitations. There are a lot of reasons why over 15,000 people are using this device and rating it 4.7 stars and above. Head on over to Kineon.io and use code ALLSMITH at checkout to begin your pain-free journey.
Yeah. Building boundaries has been one of the biggest lessons in owning a business. And boundaries don't always have to be this electric fence keeping everyone out and shocking everyone that comes close. They can be soft and I think also firm, right? Finding that balance and setting boundaries and setting expectations is a sign of respect and it's a sign of love because we're all building stories in our head. That's what our mind does. And so I could have a completely different expectation of something than you do. And if we don't clearly line that out, there's going to be misalignment.
Unexplained expectations are premeditated resentments.
Yes,
It's a big one.
absolutely. Yeah. And that's what I found is like being clear and honest with people is a gift because then there's none of that misalignment and that resentment in the future when expectations aren't met. And so boundaries can be beautiful. And I think there's a balance of it because there's a lot of this culture around like setting boundaries. And I think some people can take it to the extreme.
Yeah, where they almost
And-
don't know how to do it and it becomes mean.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have to be an electric fence. We can have softer boundaries, kind boundaries, while still holding firm to set expectations. And yeah, that's what I've tried to lean into is once again, finding that feminine and masculine balance of boundaries.
I like that. I heard this story once about, it was a TED Talk actually. And they were talking about business leadership and transparency with employees versus maybe holding back a little bit as to the communication strategy. You might not always share the budget or the numbers with employees because that could elicit anxiety or fear of their job or all the things. And he presented two sides. He's like, well, on one side, you're overly transparent and people feel like they're a part of the mission. They feel like they're part of the leadership team as opposed to this energetic feeling of like, oh, they're having a private conversation that I'm not allowed into and I feel like I'm over here. But then the gentleman used the understanding or the metaphor of like, hey, what if you and I walk into a Walmart right now and a gentleman walks in with a gun on his hip? At first, I don't really see it, but then I see it. Well, rather than like doing my thing, I might keep looking over, being like, okay, that's weird. Like, why does he have that? Like, okay, there's some states that have the conceal to carry, but like here we don't. So it'll be new to our headspace. I don't mean that in any political way, just genuine like transparency. I see he has a gun.
Yeah.
Now the whole time you're doing this. And if you relate that to business ownership, if you know the numbers behind the scenes or the struggles and you're overly transparent, now rather than employees doing the thing that they love, which you've empowered them to do, they're like, is Mia okay? Oh, she told me about that thing that was going on. And like, no. So everything's like, that seems to be like a blurred boundary, right? Around like, hey, this is your friend. You feel like you can confide in her. You're trying to figure out business ownership. But you also can't really be totally transparent because now it shifts the headspace downstream with your team.
Yeah.
So there's this fork in the road of like, wow, I can have this conversation with Matt, but I can't have this conversation with these people over here. And I'm curious how you handle that. Because sometimes like being overly honest and transparent can be weaponized. And in some cases, it brings you closer. But it's hard to know exactly how to play that card.
Yeah. I think that holding that safe container for my employees is part of my job as being a leader. And as long as they understand the why, if I'm asking them to do things, I think that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really important for them to be involved in the conversation of, hey, you're going to clean this yoga space after your class because the front desk employee has to take care of the people at the cold plunge and sauna and has to have that container as their main focus. And so we actually have every yoga teacher, like they fully clean the space after class. And that's, you know, part of like the Yoga Sutras, like Saucha, it's cleanliness. And I try to give that why and speak in their language of like, hey, if I'm doing breath work and a hairball flies in my face, like that's not Zen. And
Yeah.
so we're doing this to create a safe container for not only our employees and our colleagues, so when they come in and they're holding space, they have a clean space to come to, but also for our community and our students that we care so much about. And so when I take it to that next level of not just telling them to do something, telling them the why, I think that is a great balance. And then also, not that I'm necessarily shielding them, but not giving all of the intricacies of the challenges of my business, because there's challenges every single day. And I think that that would be kind of a sense of victimhood if I was just going in there and complaining all the time about these challenges and being so tired in the pursuit of my dream. And so, yeah, I'm very fortunate that I have Matt to be a sounding board for some of that stuff. But I think in delegating out responsibilities to my employees, that has been hugely helpful. I have a studio manager, Julia, who's incredible, that handles a lot of like employee feedback for me. And so I also have an events manager that manages events. So this delegation has also been really incredible, because when something comes up, a challenge comes up that's specific to what that person's responsibilities are, that's my go-to. It's something about like feedback from a yoga class. I'm like, okay, Julia, let's figure this out together. And then she sends the feedback, or feedback about an event. Then I work with Kiara on that. And so it takes a village, right? It's a whole team, but I'm not telling all of my employees everything all the time, because I honor that they need that sacred space too in order to show up as their best selves. If I told you right before you're about to teach a yoga class, like this horrible thing that happened to me this morning, then that's all in your head and you're not able to show up as your best self being a yoga teacher holding safe space. So I think it's just finding those boundaries.
It's a maturity too, like knowing where to push to pull. Stoked you have Kiara on staff. I met her when she was with LSKD. She and Jameson did a great job. They're good friends.
Oh, shout out Kiara, I love you.
Yeah, she does an amazing job. I attended a bunch of her events, the tail end of her with LSKD, and her kind of taking that role over from Jameson and Ellie. And I used to say this with my really good friend who's the owner of Trident Coffee, who sat in that seat a lot, Eric Johnson. Those guys put a freaking masterclass on in community. They really do understand how to connect and create the container, and I admire that.
Yeah.
I've definitely taken some notes from their brand book, and it's impressive.
Absolutely. When she had decided to take the leap away from LSKD, we were just like, hey, what are you up to? And she's like, oh, I'm just waiting for like the universe to send me something. And I'm like, well, hey, want to come over
I'm
to
Universe.
Soul Plunge?
Nice to meet you.
Yeah. And that's been a beautiful gift. She's been working with us for the past couple months. And like you said, that community building is just so important, especially in San Diego. We have such a strong wellness community.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's such a gift. And so just cultivating more of that.
I love it. We're going to have to powwow on something.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is really special. I am curious. You took the leap into this new business. It's easy to have the idea. Not as easy to create the space. Not as easy to formulate the community. Very difficult to figure out the CRM. Very difficult to figure out weekly emails, data storage, social media, finances, bookkeeping, delegation. Do you have the budget for delegation? Now it's job descriptions. Now it's liability. Now it's HR. I could keep going. Yeah. So you take the leap and you have this beautiful idea of people, San Diego and the world doesn't necessarily just want this. They need this. This is transforming lives. How did you set up the foundation of the business to do all those other things that are really the skeleton of the business and why most businesses fail?
Yeah. I think starting a business is kind of like birthing a child.
Mm.
And they say that after women give birth, they have this kind of like amnesia, like they don't really remember how hard it was when they were going through it. Yeah. And I feel like that's similar to starting a business. Yeah, there's a certain sense of like not knowing what I'm getting myself into. And not knowing how hard it was truly going to be. People can tell you all the time, it's really hard to own a small business, but until you go through it, you don't really know how hard it is. Yeah. And I would just come back to those same principles as when I left my toxic jobs of I step forward and I know that I am safe. Everything's figure outable. We're just going to figure it out. And having that unique blend of a business background and working in startups, but also having my practices of yoga, breathwork, cold plunge, and sauna, I think created this beautiful balance of I am type A. I am going to have structure around everything. I am going to bring the principles of hospitality into this business. I have a 50-page handbook for all my employees that lists everything that they need to know so they never feel like they don't have the tools or the resources that they need when they're at the job. And creating that foundation was so important. And then pulling the people in that I trusted to hold this safe space and to hold this container and to grow Soul Plunge with me has been a vital part of that as well. And this is just the start.
Yeah,
We're
totally.
just-
How long you
just
guys been in
started.
business now?
We just celebrated our first birthday on Tuesday.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. So
Very
this has
cool.
been, our birthday was a really beautiful week. All these things just started lining up, all this abundance. And I felt like I was reaching the top of a mountain after a year-long hike
Yeah.
and finally seeing the view and finally being able to eat some of the fruits of
Yeah,
all of the
totally.
hard labor. And just going back through the photos when I was like making a reel of our journey. Yeah, it's so cool to look back on. There were days in the beginning when we first opened Soul Plunge where maybe there were sessions where we had 0 people booked during that time. And I was so exhausted. I would like lock the yoga room door and I would get bolsters and blankets and I would take like a 20-minute power nap in between. And like, that's the stuff that people don't see.
Oh,
They
yeah.
don't really know. That's the stuff I don't tell my employees.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just being exhausted in the pursuit of my dreams. And now, you know, I only work 1 2-hour front desk shift at Soul Plunge. I teach 3 classes a week there. So not physically there a lot. Obviously, there's tons to do behind the scenes, but it's such a gift that I've been able to create this container and then hand it off to people that I trust and be like, hey, take care of my baby.
And that's what people forget too. Like, I think the human biology / psychology is like out of sight, out of mind. But when you're so focused working in the business, which you have to do in the beginning, you can't work on the business.
Yeah.
And it sounds cliche to say something like that, but it's so true.
Yes.
Like behind the scenes, to orchestrate the systems, the logistics, the organization, the lead funnels, pricing in and of itself is not easy.
Yeah.
Making sure there's recurring revenue, trying to make sure, I mean, you're not just worried about your dream and you and your husband anymore. You're worried about your employees and their trust and their reliance on you and your staff to keep the ship moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
How have you kind of navigated the ideology around that? Do you ever feel that pressure? Or do you typically kind of look at it from a lens of gratitude and realize like, hey, like we're doing okay right now. Can we grow? Absolutely. But what do you do to kind of like when you're in that moment and you're just like, oh shoot, like I know I have these bills tomorrow and I know payroll's going out then. I'm feeling this pressure. Like what kind of sales funnels can we do? What kind of social media can we do? Like what kind of events can we do? Like what's the inner workings as to how you guys play with that navigation?
Yeah. You know, we talked about corporate America, and I don't want it to come off like it's a bad thing. I think it taught me so many beautiful lessons on how to be a business owner and strategies to use in order to propel my business. And so, yeah, I think it's very common for me to feel stressed. I'm still that person that's a perfectionist that got a 4.0 in college. So when, you know, classes aren't selling out or things aren't going a certain way, of course, like I get hard on myself. And I have those practices to pull myself back and look at it from that lens of gratitude and the lens of abundance. So it's that balance of like, hey, we are so grateful for everything that we have. Everything is abundant. The universe is, you know, working towards our favor. And I think that that's something that needs to be a little bit debunked in the yogic culture. And one of my yoga philosophy teachers, Alex, just debunked it. It's this quote that, you know, the universe is constantly conspiring to align everything in your favor. Yes. And I'll combat that with a quote that my dad loves, which is luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So coming back to balance, it's like, yes, we're going to put all the structures in place. We're going to do all the things. I'm constantly looking for ways in which we can continue to propel our business, especially in a environment that's so competitive. Cold plunging 2 years ago, like nobody was doing it. And now it's like on this crazy trajectory. And so, of course, a lot of competition has popped up. And I just have to pull myself back to be like, nobody else is Soul Plunge. Nobody else is me. Nobody else is Bryce. Nobody else could possibly ever be you. And leaning on that. And so, yeah, it all comes back to that balance.
I love that you said that because it's something that I sit with often. Like, what is the thing that we're doing that's attracting? Because every time I've tried to chase, it hasn't worked. It's like chasing a bunny or a butterfly or a hummingbird.
Yeah.
You have to cultivate the soil to create the blossoming to attract. And the way you do that is what we discussed previously, which is becoming the person, but then also trusting in that. Trusting that these other global gyms that have 3 or 4 cold plunges and universal saunas and co-ed saunas, really, which are like a selling point because it creates this sexual ideation that like sells.
Yeah.
But when you're not handheld originally to create an experience, I feel like that sexiness dies. Oh, I'm going to get hot. Oh, I'm going to get cold. It's not, I'm going to go have an experience and I'm going to feel something and I'm going to leave feeling this way versus I just touched on these things over here. And I do think it's different.
Yeah.
It's the difference between like I smashed that burger versus like I really enjoyed the ambiance of the restaurant and the smell and the company that I got to share in. And I loved the music that was playing and I'd never had a beverage feel and taste and combine well with the burger in that way. Like there's levels to the game. But it's interesting because from a marketing strategy, people don't know that until they experience it. They see the social media and they're like, oh, like why would I go pay that to do cold plunging and breath work when that's part of my global gym membership over here and I can cruise down to Ocean Pacific and do the thing over here. But it's not the same. From a marketing strategy, how do you guys separate yourselves?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I think that comes back to the community that we've cultivated and that idea that we're not another Starbucks on a block. We're this local business that I've poured my everything into, my love and intention. And you can feel that when you walk into Soul Plunge. You can feel how much love and intention was put into it. It's just like if you eat a sandwich. That you can tell whether that sandwich was made with love.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I think, like I said, it's like the beautiful space that we've created and the community we've cultivated gets people in the door. And then once they're in the door and they actually experience what it feels like to be in that space, like there's not much else we have to do. Our number one like marketing source is word of mouth and referral.
Yeah.
Just, you got to come check out this place. You got to experience that. And that's the best kind of marketing.
I totally agree. People will forget what you said, they'll forget what you did, but they never forget the way you made them feel.
Yeah.
And I think if you make somebody feel a certain way, like you and I won't stop talking about it.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to come have an experience with you guys because that's something that like, think about this vibrance of life and why All Smith started, the loss of my parents, deathbed conversations, seeing what's going on in the world. Wow, we can have this beautiful connection right now where everything else fades into the background. We can feel, we can think a little bit, and we can experience, and we can share that with one another. That's living. That's not just surviving. Like that's in pursuit of thriving. Different game than just, hey, I just did the thing over here after my workout and I checked the box and whatever.
Yeah, life is freaking hard. And we're fortunate that we're living in a time where mental health is openly discussed now. But even like back in our parents' generation, like mental health wasn't discussed.
No, not at all.
Yeah, and these wellness practices, no, they weren't here.
Suck it up, mask it with alcohol or nicotine back in the day.
Yeah.
And just get it done. And that works. And then you die at 60.
Yeah.
If not earlier.
So that's not lost on me that I am so fortunate to be in a space and a time and have the privilege to be in these spaces where I can be so vulnerable and I can do these breathwork practices where I'm crying and screaming and letting my emotions arise and nobody's judging me for that.
Mm-hmm. I love that we've discussed this and painted the picture for people, but I also don't want to just romanticize slowing down and being and breathing. Because you are who you are, because you're also type A.
Yeah.
And Hermosi talks about all the time, like this country was founded by people that smoked cigarettes and had bacon in the morning and didn't have a fucking cold plunge morning routine.
Yeah.
Right? It's funny. Because you need both.
Absolutely.
And I'm a big fan, like before this, jump in the cold plunge. It sets my state, sets my energy for the day. I don't do it every day anymore. I have the cold plunge. The cold plunge doesn't have me. I became addicted for a while where I was like, oh, if I don't do it, I'm going to have a bad day.
Yeah.
But it's like, my morning routine isn't 3 hours. It's like I wake up, the dogs go left to go take a piss, and I just go right. And I'm just like, this is what I do. Why? Because I freaking hate it, and it makes me a better man in the world.
Yeah.
And on the other side of this, things that probably would bother me or piss me off or ruffle my feathers a little bit allow me to stay a little bit more calm and notice, because I got my first win of the day before brushing my teeth and making the bed.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like that's my thought process. I'm not saying that has to be the one, but without you having the resilience, making certain sacrifices, it's not like you just have this like easy life and you get to run this business and it's funded by itself. It's like that line must be nice is so wrong and cliche of like, no, you still do all these things to make this sexy space clean and operate, and systems and a 50-page handbook, and find opportunities and experiences to keep the plates spinning. Like without you guys orchestrating, the plates will shatter.
Yeah, absolutely. It's finding that balance of effort and ease that we've talked about. Setting up the foundation for your house and then filling it, right? Filling it with people that are going to treat it with love and treat it like it's their own home. And as I mentioned, I want Soul Plunge to be this fertilizer for other people to plant their seeds and to let their garden grow in. And I think that's been the most powerful part. And there's been a lot of full circle moments of Soul Plunge where my teachers, my healers have come and taught in the space and still teach in the space or host workshops in the space. And it's moments like that where it comes full circle in my life where I get emotional because I'm just like, holy shit, I'm doing it. Like I created this space that is just growing and growing, and we're sharing so much with the world. And as you mentioned, like slowing down, of course, is a reminder that we all need, just because our culture has this obsession with productivity and with go. And so, yeah, it is finding that balance. I think sometimes we swing to the other end of the pendulum and then it's like, slow down, like don't do anything. But of course we need that balance, right? It's just like the nervous system. We need fight or flight. We need the sympathetic nervous system. That's part of our DNA. We also need the parasympathetic. And if we're stuck in either state, it's not good. If we're stuck in parasympathetic, if we're not doing anything, we're just sitting on our couch, we're getting depressed, we're like, what the hell am I doing with my life? Then that ping pong is going to swing back to the fight or flight of like, shit, I got to do something. Okay, I got to go. And then you burn yourself out. And then you swing back to the parasympathetic. You get sick. You have to rest. You can't do anything. And that's a dysregulated nervous system, that ping-ponging back and forth. And so regulation is being able to take back control and knowing when we need that effort, when we need that sympathetic, we need that drive, and knowing when we need the ease, we need the parasympathetic, we need the rest.
I like that. And so many people like blame that on coincidence or circumstance. But giving people that control again is really powerful. Because it helps them understand. I mean, XBT, I had PJ Nestler on the show, and he talks about, wow, we breathe 20,000 times in a day. Very little of it is noticed. But without it, we die.
Yeah.
We notice when it's not there. We don't necessarily notice when it's there. And that goes back into the human psychology of, and we see this in business, like I get one bad review on something, I'm like, man, like I fixate on that. I'm like, how can I get better? But I might get 15 great reviews. And I almost blame that on like, I'm supposed to do that. How do we curate the mind a little bit better in regards to that ratio, to not just overemphasize the negative, acknowledge it, wave to it, but don't necessarily get in the car with it and like go for a ride and let it like beat the shit out of us in the car.
Yeah.
But do use it as a tool to improve.
Yeah, we definitely have a negativity bias where we obsess on those negative reviews. And I think it's a practice of choosing to celebrate your little wins, celebrate joy.
But I'd also say never get too high, never get too low, right? Because if you're super celebrating every win, you're like way up here, and then you come back down to baseline. You're like, oh man, this is boring. Mastering the mundane is really hard. And then you get a negative review, and you're like in the dumps, depressed. It's like
there's that ping pong
for sure. It's like that. I think of it as like a harmonization, right? How does it integrate into the beauty? Because you need light and dark. You need heavy with light. You need each end of the spectrum.
Absolutely.
But getting too strong on either side just ends up being chaotically heavy.
Yeah. I think it's okay to feel the highs and feel the lows. It's just like not getting stuck there.
Yeah. Visit that for a second.
Yeah.
I like the way you said that. That's cool. When you think about the other side of resistance, it's freedom. It's flow. But that resistance can be tough.
Yeah.
What's your philosophy on coaching people through that? Because sometimes the anticipation of discomfort creates a narrative where people don't even want to try.
Yeah.
But one of my favorite quotes is, challenges are what make life interesting, but overcoming those challenges is what makes life meaningful. And when we get to the end, we're going to remember that.
Yeah.
We're not going to remember, that thing seemed hard, so I just didn't try.
Yeah.
Like the pain of suffering is way better than the pain of regret. But to get people to the place to have that opportunity is sometimes hard.
Yeah. I think you said that beautifully. And I think the key to getting people to that place is them feeling safe. So if I could put one word on how I want people to feel when they walk into Soul Plunge, it's safe. If we don't feel safety in our body, we're not going to go to our depths. If we don't feel safe to express our emotions, we're not going to express them. We're going to keep pushing them down. And so, the first step is just finding safety.
Healing is not linear. It's cyclical, like waves, like breath, like itself. I read that one this morning and I was like, that's going to land with me.
Love that one. I love that. Healing and growth is not linear. It is this crazy pathway of ups and downs.
But Mia, you said when I go to your studio, I'm going to get the thing and I'm going to feel better and I'm going to get the euphoria and the cold plunge is going to unlock the rest of my life. And if I get my breath, I'm going to understand the nervous system. I want the thing. Outcome-oriented mindset. People want linear progression every year. They want to make more money. They want more. More is not better. Better is better. How do you communicate that to people?
They've got to experience it for themselves. They've got to go through that mud to get to the other side.
I hate that and love that so much.
I know. It's not easy, but they're not in it alone.
For sure. The word begins come up a few times for us. And courage is the bridge between fear and freedom.
Yeah.
Unlocking courage is really freaking hard.
Yeah.
I meet you for the first time. I come into Soul Plunge. I feel something cool. I feel safe. I can feel the energy that you and Matt have created. I'm kind of chopping it up with some of the other members. It smells good. I'm anticipating maybe some dim lights, some yoga mats, maybe some sauna, maybe not. But I still have this anxiety of, I need to do the cold plunge. And we've experienced that at our retreats where like we have this whole curriculum. And the end is really not like the meat and potatoes of the retreat. It's just like an opportunity for people to experience the contrast. For some people, I let them pick their own adventure and I kind of stay out of the way.
Yeah.
And for some people, I guide them through an experience. but it's kind of a taste. But the whole time they're thinking about what is the anxiety that's going to come with the cold.
Yeah.
And so they're there. They're anxious about the future. Maybe they're a little bit depressed from the past. And they're struggling to be in the now.
Yep. I think courage is not a lack of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing it anyways.
Mm.
And it's scary to slow down and be with all of that, be with the anxiety, be with the anticipation of the cold plunge. And that's part of the practice. How can we live side by side with that fear? And rather than saying, what does this fear want from me? Like I have to produce, I have to prove myself, I have to do something. Going back to the beginning of our conversation, what does this fear want for me?
Mm.
Freedom. It wants to get to the other side of these self-limiting doubts that I've been having. Yeah, what does this want for me?
That's cool. Your soul already knows the way. Your mind just has to quiet down long enough to listen.
It just like snapped me back to Thailand because we would start each day with a 2-hour yoga practice. The first 30 minutes of that practice was just a silent seated meditation. And it was the first time since starting Soul Plunge that I actually slowed myself down enough to meditate. For the first year and a half of building Soul Plunge, I couldn't meditate. And here I am preaching like, oh, do yoga, meditation, breath work. And my mind was a monkey just bouncing everywhere. And so Thailand was a really raw time for me because I was forced to slow down and sit and just be with my thoughts. And there's a certain point in meditation where you find a little bit of space between thoughts. And that quote just snapped me back to that space. Like I was like, I'm here.
Yeah.
Just here. I'm just being. I'm not producing. I'm not doing. I'm not having to figure anything out. I'm not having to analyze what cues the teacher's saying or the music or the lights. I am here.
It's beautiful. So Dave, I think it was Dave Matthews Band that says the space between.
The universe is funny. I've been to like probably 50 plus Dave Matthews shows.
Really? Wow.
Yep.
I don't know if I've ever referenced them on this podcast before. So the
That's
fact
so
that came
funny.
to me just now is like something's there.
Oh yeah. That's how Matt and I's relationship started. Just going around to all of the shows, and his lyrics are so beautiful.
Oh, that's awesome. What was your first concert ever?
First concert ever was at SPAC, and it started as just a social gathering. Like I would go to camp out and hang out, and then I met Matt in college, and he just hung on every word of Dave Matthews. And
Nice.
once I started really listening to the lyrics of his music, they're so profound.
That's how I know you're a deep soul.
Yeah.
The lyrics resonate with you. Some people are into the rhythm and the vibe and the energy. Other people grab onto the lyrics and the meaning.
Yeah.
That's cool. I love that. What's next for Soul Plunge?
This brings a big smile on my face because there's so much magic ahead. And I won't give everything away, but this is just the start. And I have to thank everyone who's been a part of it, everyone that's stepped foot in our door, everyone that's followed us on social media and been following my journey. I wouldn't be here without the people around me. So thank you to everyone who's been a part of this journey, and there's so much magic ahead.
Can you share with people the quote that you talked about, that healing is a solo journey, but we can't do it alone?
Absolutely. Yeah. This dharma, this purpose of mine of creating safe space for humans to find healing was born in those spaces that humans held for me. So we're all just passing it along. And sitting in community and being vulnerable in community, even having conversations like this where we're finding true human connection beyond the, how are you today? Good. How are you? Good.
Yeah.
This is what life's all about. This is when I feel the most alive.
Mm-hmm.
And so if anyone listening to this is on a journey that they feel like they're alone, you're not alone. There are so many people that are going through the same exact thing you are. Start sharing your journey. Start talking to people about it, and you'll be amazed at how many people it resonates with.
So beautiful. Mia, where can people find you?
You can find us on Instagram at Soul Plunge. My personal is at It's Mia Heck, soulplunge.com. come check us out. We're in La Jolla on Girard Street. We'd love to have you in.
I love it. Girard Street's a big street.
Yeah.
It's a lot going on over there.
Yeah, we're nestled behind an old bookstore down a driveway, and that's where the magic happens.
So beautiful. Guys, if you enjoyed my conversation with Mia Heck today, please rate, review, subscribe, and share with your friends. And as always, stay on the hunt for who you've not yet become. Until next time.